Hey everybody, coming up tonight on this Wednesday edition of Now, in the midst of a young death in Lewiston, how to talk to your children about mental illness.
We'll do a day in the life of a brewmeister. It takes a while to make that stuff.
Also, a dad has a special surprise for his kids. You don't want to miss this one.
This is News Center Now.
And I'll still stick up for those kids that feel like they have nothing left to live for.
Lewiston Middle School students are mourning the loss of a student who died by suicide, and they're demanding changes. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Hill.
Naomi Goldberg. Over 50 students at Lewiston Middle School chose to forego their classes, and instead they stood outside to pay respects to a student who took her own life.
They say this horrible incident should actually be a wake-up call. News Center's Christina Rex is here with us. And Christina, why don't you explain to us what happened today?
Obviously a horrible incident, Lee and Amanda, and typically, of course, we wouldn't actually even report on a suicide, but since this has sparked such a discussion at the Lewiston Middle Schools, we felt it was important to talk about. A student named Ani took her own life this week, and some students found out last night, some this morning. They chose to stand outside and not go to class today because of that, and they say that part of the reason they believe that she was hurting so much is because of bullying at their school, which they say is a constant problem. Administrators say they're doing everything they can, and this is definitely a wake-up call, and they're going to try and see what they can do to make students feel happier and more at home moving forward. And interestingly enough, they absolutely supported the students who stood outside today. They will not be getting in any trouble. The principal and the superintendent said, you know, they need to grieve how they need to grieve. So that's how they chose to do it, and the teachers were happy with that.
You had mentioned to us, too, that a lot of these students were comparing what happened to that series on Netflix, 13 Reasons Why.
Absolutely. So I know not everyone has seen 13 Reasons Why. It's a Netflix series that went very popular, but it was also really controversial because it's about a high schooler, actually, who takes her own life, and she leaves all of these reasons why, and basically the reasons were bullying that she took her own life. And these students said, you know, that's a lesson for us. But administrators at the same time say, you never know what's going on in a person's head. You never know the reason someone chooses to take their own life. And it's important that we focus on what's going on at Lewiston Middle School, not necessarily what's coming from TV. You know?
This is such a tragic thing, and it's not even the first time that these kids have had to deal with this.
No, this has been a horrible year for Lewiston Middle School. In fact, they lost a student this fall, not by suicide, but a boy named Jaden Cho Sargent. He was actually hit by a truck on his way to school and died. So this is the second student they've lost this year, and it was obvious when I talked to the principal. He was holding back tears the whole time. He's just devastated, and it's obviously really hard for these students to deal with. And important to note, these students, one thing they demanded is that they wanted a vigil for their friend Ani. So tonight at 7:45 in front of the school, there will be a vigil in her memory.
We do not create a culture in our schools, in our families, or in our communities where we really understand mental health and where we engage in open dialogue without judgment.
Jenna Maynard is with Maine's chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and she has some staggering statistics about suicide, specifically in young people. In fact, she says the median age for developing an anxiety disorder is 11 years old. The median age for the development of a mood disorder is about 15. Also, suicide is the second leading cause of death in young people, and it's time, she says, to start paying attention to that.
So the first thing is to be cognizant and aware of how you use terms related to mental health so that you're not demeaning mental health. You know, I've heard of a teacher telling a room full of students there's no such thing as ADHD, or you're just making up your anxiety. So those students are not going to feel safe to talk about some challenge if that's the message they're getting. Non-judgmentally listening to young people. We hear young people, but we listen to them prepared to give them our wisdom, our guidance, our direction, rather than really being present for them where they're at, feeling whatever they're feeling with them, and helping them, empowering them to figure out a way through that. And that's building resiliency. That's being present. That's not saying, oh, when I was 16, I remember my first breakup. What you need to do is X, Y, and Z. It's not doing that. It's, boy, I can see you're really struggling. You know, what are some things we might be able to do to move through this? You know, I know when my daughter was younger, it was, let's go shopping, let's go get our nails done. I mean, how many adult women don't still use those tools on a bad mental health day, right?
By the way, sleep, diet, and exercise all help boost our mental health. If you have any follow-up questions, NAMI has a lot of resources on its website. You can find a link on our website or mobile apps.
In terms of what is next for me, I am still commissioner of this department, and I am going to work for the next several days focused on the priorities of this department.
The leader of the Department of Health and Human Services, Mary Mayhew, abruptly announced today that she's stepping down. Now, rumors are swirling that this is her first step onto the campaign trail, but she did not say if she's planning to run for governor at some point. The Maine House shot down a bill that would allow terminally ill patients to end their lives with a fatal dose of medication. Earlier this month, we told you about the latest push for a so-called death with dignity law, which scraped by in the Senate last week. Yesterday, the Maine House voted it down. Parents of young ones want to pay attention to this next story. More than 25,000 car seats are under recall because they do not meet federal regulations. Graco Children's Products say 8 models of their MyRide 65 convertible child restraints may not protect kids in a crash. Starting in July, customers who have one of these seats can get a free replacement.
Hey, this weekend marks the unofficial start to summer. Looks like weather's finally getting on board with that after a bump in the road.
All right, today was nice. What else you got? Come on, give me something. Something.
It goes downhill. By the way, I think the unofficial start of summer didn't start in Maine. Like Memorial Day often in Maine is not the start of it, but we like to think of that mentally. We actually did all right today, temperature-wise. We got into the 70s. A lot of spots popped into the low 70s, mid 70s. It's cooled down though along the coastline. 55 in Rockland, 64 in Bar Harbor. Some clouds, you know, it's variable cloudiness is the best way to put it. I kind of hate putting that in a forecast because it sounds like you don't know what's going to happen, but a day like today is a perfect example where the only way to cover it is variable cloudiness. We have some sun and then it will cloud over, some high thin clouds on top of that. We had a storm that just missed us to the south and east. Most of the showers stayed out there. A few sprinkles have popped up here and there in the mountains, but a lot of these not even hitting the ground. So the rest of tonight is ending up clear. We start tomorrow dry, but we quickly fall apart here. Clouds drive in from southwest and northeast. It goes from showers to straight up rain overnight on Thursday night. And guys, at this point, Friday still looks really nasty.
All right, thanks, Keith. Black Lives Matter protesters who shut down Commercial Street will not face criminal charges.
Yeah, after a plea deal fell apart, the prosecutor wanted to bring the matter back into court, but a Cumberland County judge denied that motion. News Center's Chris Costa live at the Cumberland County Courthouse where the district attorney just finished meeting with people. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Lee and Amanda, yeah, we just finished up a news conference with District Attorney Stephanie Anderson. She said that they will not be pursuing a restorative justice session with those protesters. She said she feels that those protesters did not want to continue any type of conversation. She said the last time that she had heard anything that talked about a conversation from those protesters was back on July 15. She did say, though, that the judge's order, his decision in this order, was well reasoned. Here's what she had to say.
They were adjudicated of disorderly conduct. They all did pay $200. We wanted to understand what their concerns were. We wanted to have a conversation with them, and we're disappointed that they don't want apparently to do that. But you know, we're fine with the way it worked out.
Now, just a little bit of background here. On the original day of the restorative justice meeting, the protesters wanted to be heard as one large group, even though the district attorneys had scheduled 2 separate sessions to split them up into 2 groups. The court found that the protesters' demand to meet as one group was not a, quote, material breach of the plea agreement that they had entered into, and concluded that criminal charges should not be restored. But the judge said in the order that unless there is an amendment to the agreement, the protesters and both parties must fulfill the terms and participate in a restorative justice session, which defense attorney Tina Netto believes her clients, the protesters, already did.
just because they didn't reach an endpoint or an agreement with the DA's office at the end doesn't mean that the session was a failure. It just means it was at an earlier stage than I think the DA's office would have wanted.
Now, the criminal charges remain filed but inactive. What the district attorney said was essentially those protesters would have to commit some type of new crime in order for those charges to become active again. Again, she also said they are not going to pursue a restorative justice session, but if the protesters come and want to have a discussion, they said they'd certainly be open to it. Lee and Amanda, that's all we have from the Cumberland County Courthouse as of right now.
All right, Coco, thank you very much. Still to come on Now.
As with us, you know, you're seeing the return of neighborhood breweries.
What's it like to be a brewmeister, and how hard is it to make the stuff? It's harder than you might think.
Nervous. Miss them a lot. Miss my family a lot.
A father is home from deployment, and we were there for the touching moment when he was reunited with his kids.
Hey everybody, I'm Katie Ortiz with your Social Stop. If you haven't seen this in person yet, you've probably seen it on social media. Someone in the Katahdin region really wants to welcome the tourists to the National Monument. This post is from the Natural Resources Council of Maine. The governor's office says that they won't put up any road signs until review of the Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument is over. But someone decided to take the matter into their own hands and posted this homemade sign directing potential visitors to exit 264.
I'm excited that people are kind of waking up, and maybe we'll see some more signs out there. You never know. There's lots of roadway that needs signs, so maybe we'll see some more of those.
The sign was short-lived because the Maine DOT has already taken it down. Tennyson Coleman will have more on that tonight at 6. Lee and Amanda.
I mean, you know, A for effort. You know,
nice
a little
try.
ingenuity, and they, you know, took it in their own hands. So.
That's, you know, that's the main way, really.
It really is.
Taking it into your own hands. All right, coming up.
How do you think your daughters are going to react?
Not sure. Hoping they're excited just as much as I am.
Break out the tissues. A military family is reunited when the father surprises his kids at school.
And Keith's going to make you cry as well as he gets ready to rain on our Memorial Day parade.
This for them?
Oh yeah, I do it for them. I do it for everybody.
2 little girls from Lewiston got a special surprise in school today, a long-awaited reunion with Dad.
Bill Gunter's in the Navy. He hadn't seen his daughters for 1 year. Jess Gagne was there to capture the moment when the family was whole again.
This isn't an ordinary music class at Montello Elementary. Kylie and Kira are about to hear the sweetest sound of all, their dad's voice.
Nervous. Miss them a lot. Miss my family a lot. I've been away for 12 months, so it's crazy.
A sing-along suddenly turned into shock when an unexpected guest walked through the door.
Did you recognize him right away?
Not really. They thought he was someone else's dad.
But it didn't take long before the girls realized who the surprise visitor was. Hugs and kisses for the man they've only seen through Skype for the past year.
Daddy! Oh, now you realize it.
Sitting in his arms, they sang him a song they'd been working on together. Seeing his daughter smile reminds Bill of why he has dedicated his life to protecting our country.
Do it every day for family.
A sweet surprise and an early dismissal so this reunited family can celebrate this special day.
I love you, Dad.
In Lewiston, Jessica Gagne, News Center.
I love that they it took them a minute because when you're not expecting it.
Yeah, and they're kind of looking like, okay, he looks like my dad, but he's not here. Wait, Dad?
I feel like a lot of the surprises are like that. When they come from behind the plate or whatever, the kids are like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, I watched it live on our Facebook page when it happened. I'm sitting at my desk crying, so I was like, why did I watch this?
Yeah, it's adorable.
Yeah,
it is.
That was great.
All right, so our weather's going to go downhill for a little bit as predicted, but I think we're going to salvage enough of the weekend to make most people happy.
Okay.
Not everyone.
Fair enough.
You never make everyone happy. Highs today were kind of interesting. We got up to 72 in Lewiston, 71 in Augusta, 68 in Portland, although I'll tell you that a lot of these locations cooled down over the past hour or so, particularly along the coast as we got an onshore flow. The storm just missed us to the south and east as we thought that it might, and all the rain stayed out over the Gulf of Maine. There's a few spotty showers into the mountains and foothills, but those, a lot of them are not even actually hitting the ground. So just a sprinkle in the next hour or two, and after that we'll be clearing out. And the cloudiness is variable. It's a little bit drier back across New Hampshire and Vermont, so we'll see more clearing tonight. Tonight's actually a pretty nice night. Temperatures drop a bit, but it's clear and calm before our next storm system arrives. So we missed one storm. We're not going to miss this storm for Thursday night, Friday. It will drive right in from the southwest and northeast. A lot of moisture to work with, so the rain starts tomorrow afternoon, but the heaviest stuff is overnight Thursday into the first half of Friday. It's going to be nasty Friday morning. This low is perfectly positioned just to our east to throw that moisture back into Maine, New Hampshire, and even into Vermont. So I don't like Friday at all. Nothing has really changed there. It's a rainy day, it's a windy day, and there could be some coastal flooding on Friday night with a high astronomical tide. Good news is all of this mess moves out and we get into a northwest downsloping drying wind on Saturday, and Saturday is definitely the better of the two weekend days, but Sunday is going to be dry and pretty pleasant as well. So we get those 2 days right in the middle there. Hour by hour forecast clear tonight. Clouds come in from southwest and northeast tomorrow. It's not raining until the afternoon over southern Maine, until the evening over down east and northern Maine. So it takes longer to get there. But watch some of these heavy bands moving in here Friday morning. That's really heavy downpour stuff, and temperatures only in the 40s. We'll probably get to 52, 53 for a high temperature, and that's going to about do it. So the weekend is smack in the middle. If this was a normal non-holiday weekend, you'd be happy with this. Unfortunately, there will be some showers on Memorial Day as well. My feeling is it's not so bad that you can't do what you were planning to do on Memorial Day. Just be aware there will be some showers around. Tuesday looks pretty decent, and then some scattered showers again on Wednesday. Big picture, guys, this pattern is just almost dead on average. Nothing exceptional about it, nothing terrible about what we had like 2 weeks ago, so just kind of in the middle.
You never know with Memorial Day anyway, right?
Yeah, it's kind of, I feel better about usually the end of summer in Maine than I do this time of the year.
It's like, it's vanilla ice cream. I mean, it's good.
Right,
you know,
it's decent.
It's not the best, it's not the worst, it's
compared
good.
to the sun lamp we knew 2 weeks ago, I'll take it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Keith.
There you go. All right, every once in a while here on Now, we highlight a day in the life of different people in our communities.
Today, you were lucky enough to hang out with John Lagasse and TJ Hansen from Four River Brewing.
Welcome to Four River Brewing Company. I'm John. We're going to brew John Henry Milk Stout today. Come on in. All right, so we started the process off this morning by heating up our hot water. So our hot liquor tank over on this side is heated up to 200 degrees. So water's ready to go. Now we're going to go upstairs and mill the barley for John Henry. We run all of our barley through this mill to get it to open up. And then once this is done, we'll move downstairs and that barley will transfer into the mash tun. It's a lot of math and science. It's a lot of trying to understand biology. Beer making really is, you're dealing with a living organism and trying to keep that organism happy and healthy. And they reward us with producing good and consistent beer. The beer moves off the kegs. And then our favorite part happens, which is quality control. So from beginning to end, today's actual brewing of the beer will take anywhere from 10 to 12 hours, and we'll get a couple of batches in. And then really for this particular beer, it's about a week and a half, and then we'll be looking at this. So, cheers.
I did get you an application to be quality control tester of the beer.
Fair enough.
So,
fair enough. Cindy Williams is here with a preview of what's coming up at 5:30.
Hey guys, prosecutors say that a woman was living the high life while living off her mother. This is a story you're only going to see tonight on News Center. Investigators say this woman stole tens of thousands of dollars from her mom. We'll explain what happened in court today and show you how seniors can help protect their money. Plus, an intense situation today when an officer is involved in a shooting, why they're still there now, and the traffic tie-ups you may encounter because of it. It's all coming up at 5:30.
All righty, more now after the break.
All right, tonight's Brain Drops is about chemtrails, or more specifically, how it's not actually a thing. Now, I'm never afraid to stray away from a somewhat controversial topic, and this I've been getting emails about probably for 6 or 7 years. So let's talk about what a chemtrail is, first of all, what people believe it is. They believe that coming from a plane, what you see there in that kind of picture, is the government spraying either a chemical or some sort of substance down onto people. So that's the premise behind the chemtrail idea. Let's talk about what it is in actuality, which is a contrail. And to understand how a contrail forms, you have to understand how a cloud forms to begin with. So the basic premise behind cloud development is that the air near the ground heats up, whether it be from the sunlight most often or just because of an air mass change. That air now is less dense and rises up into the atmosphere. As it does so, it cools. The atmosphere is stacked such that, in general, it's cooler aloft than it is at the surface. So as it's rising and cooling, it gets closer and closer to its point of condensation, meaning it can hold less water vapor when it's cooler as a parcel of air. So eventually it gets to the point where the temperature and the dew point are the same and condensation occurs, much like you see on a car window, except in this case, it's creating a cloud, which is a combination of supercooled water droplets and ice crystals. Okay, so that's how a cloud forms, which makes it a lot easier to understand how a contrail forms. Let's talk about how that happens. Jet engines exhaust vapor. That is the #1 exhaust of a jet engine, is water vapor, and there are also particles in there. Some of them are sulfur particles, which is important because that's something for the water vapor to cling onto. So now you're up in the atmosphere, where in general, if you ever go on a flight, like a JetBlue flight that tells you what the temperature is outside at 35,000 feet, it's like -40, -45, very cold aloft. Now you're injecting this warm water vapor into the atmosphere. So you can see where I'm going with this. You already have a parcel that is much warmer and has a lot more moisture in a spot where it's cold. So that condensation occurs rapidly into basically what is a cloud, which is what a contrail is. Now, what people say about chemtrails is how come some planes put them off and others don't? That's one of the #1 things people say. And the reason for that is simply elevation. This is a rocket launch that was recorded, so you're looking vertically up into the atmosphere. Notice there's a contrail here in the middle part, not on either side. It's because different layers of the atmosphere have different moisture contents and they have different temperature profiles. So in some cases, it's not going to be conducive to you seeing the contrail. The contrail is always there. It's just going to be how long does it hang around. So the contrails that you see hanging around for a long period of time are because there's a lot of water vapor in the atmosphere and not much in the way of winds. I'm okay with conspiracy theories. Let's just save them for things that we don't have a real explanation for. We know exactly what contrails are. They've known since the 40s what contrails are, so no more chemtrails.
Brain dropped.
There it
Dropped
is.
it.
Dropped the brain.
Walked away.
All right, we'll let you answer all the emails.
Yes.
Okay, kids, that's it for us.
News Center at 5:30 starts now.